this episode's going to be a little bit different. We typically go around the table, which is where we talk about something new, fun, and noteworthy. But this week, everything new, fun, and noteworthy is what the whole episode is about. We're going to do an entire episode dedicated to Avengers Infinity War. Now, don't go anywhere just yet. If you haven't seen the film, we're going to give you ample time before spoilers happen. So stick around for the first few minutes if you haven't seen the movie.
I like the thought that every episode starts by you begging people not to immediately turn off the episode.
Please don't leave.
Wait. We have a guest. Let's.
Can let me do the thing? You guys just never let me do the thing. You recognize that I'm not an idiot and I know how this thing works.
All right, go ahead.
Lord. All right.
I'll trust you.
Let's land this spaceship.
So we have a guest. You will know our guest from the Creatoring podcast. If you've been to any of the of Southern region conferences in the last couple months, you will know him as well. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, Zach Wilkinson, to the show.
Yeah.
Hey,
man.
You know what's funny?
guys?
I said welcome back, but we haven't aired the episode where you were on yet.
I had this moment of like, I don't.
We had him on. You were on our hot seat, and we haven't aired that hot seat interview yet.
Are you still going to? I was worried it just wasn't going to come out at all.
No,
I
it's,
was like,
it's
oh,
for sure. It was a great one. Yeah.
maybe. Well, yeah.
Okay, so real quick, tell everybody who you are and what you're doing on this show right now.
Oh, I'm Zach Wilkinson. Like, I'm on the Creatoring podcast, and I ambush people at conferences.
Yeah.
I'm also a motion designer full-time for a company in-house in California. But I live in Georgia. Yay, remote work.
Internet.
2018.
Yeah.
Yay. Thanks, Obama. And today, we all went... well, Patrick, you went last night, didn't you? The rest of us
right.
went today to see Avengers.
I wouldn't have been able
together.
to make it another day. Yeah,
I'm
for sure
actually
last
glad
night.
that I didn't see it last night because I couldn't have waited this long to talk about it.
True.
Oh, even seeing it this morning, I'm just like...
I know. It's killing
losing
us.
my mind.
So you're on the show though because you are a massive comic book nerd, movie nerd. You
That's
love
fair.
all of these things, and when we talked about seeing this movie when we were together, it just made so much sense. When it was time for us to chat, you were going to be a perfect addition to the crew. So with that being said, why don't you jump in and get people up to speed on where we were at going into this movie?
Okay, so in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you mean emotionally and physically, spiritually? Because I don't think I was ready for all this movie.
I definitely
Sorry, I
wasn't, but right, yeah.
This is a lot of movie. So
Right,
maybe we can work backwards a little bit.
Okay.
go for it.
Y'all can help me fill in the gaps, because going into this, I know a lot of people started watching started from Iron Man like 3 or 4 weeks ago, because you had time to watch, was it 18 movies now?
Yeah.
19, I think. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
It's 31 hours worth of movies.
It's a lot.
I wouldn't even include the Hulk in that. Some people were like, you got to the Hulk in.
So now
I
it's
guess there
18. Good point.
Yeah. So I watched 5 movies in preparing for this movie. Avengers,
Yep.
Okay.
Guardians of the Galaxy,
Yep.
Thor: Dark World,
Okay.
Civil War,
Yep.
and then Black Panther was the one you were supposed to watch, because that's the most recent one.
Sure.
Thor:
Right.
Ragnarok and Black Panther, but that's not out yet. So I watched Doctor Strange again.
Okay.
And there's a little couple things you pick up in there. Patrick, I saw your hesitation when I mentioned Dark World. I totally forgot most of that movie.
Yeah.
That's when they introduced the Reality Stone.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I
that
just
was the
remember
weapon.
being bored out of my mind watching that film. That's all that comes to mind when I think of that film.
So we've got before Avengers, Iron Man came out. He got captured by the terrorists that were using his weapons.
Yep.
He built the suit in the freaking cave, which is insane.
Yep.
Captain America in the past, Red Soldier. What stones did Red Skull have?
He had the Soul Stone is what he was trying to get.
Yeah, he's trying to get the Soul Stone, but he had another one. What's the Blue Stone?
The blue stone is the Power Stone?
No.
He had that one. No,
The purple's the Power Stone.
Blue one's the one that's in the Tesseract.
Yeah.
I thought that was the... that's the... That's not the time stone. It's the reality stone?
No, that's
Yeah.
red. Reality is red
I don't
stone.
know. It's the blue
No,
stone.
reality is red. Yeah. So we've mentioned every single one, but this particular one, what is it?
Let me look at this list now. Maybe I'm just screwing.
Don't
up.
worry, Luke can cut
The
this together,
truth
so
stone?
it's fine. Probably
what stone?
could have pulled
Truth
this
stone?
up.
The editing stone.
The editing stone.
Anyway, so
Is
we're
it
still
Space
not.
Stone?
The what?
We have soul, time, space, mind,
Space
reality,
stone.
power.
Space stone. Space
So
stone.
it'd be space.
Yeah, space,
Yeah,
space, space.
and that
space.
makes sense because he was opening portals and stuff with it.
Space.
Yes, which is
Space.
space.
I'm trying really hard not to spoil anything. That's why it feels like I'm jumping around and being kind of random because so much. It's so easy to just spoil one
They're just
thing.
going like
Sure.
connect it. Yes.
It's okay. We'll get through it.
Okay, so now we're up to Avengers,
Yep.
and that's the first time they actually fight the aliens
Yes.
because Loki, using the Tesseract and the Space Stone, takes over Eric.
Yep.
Who else? Hawkeye.
Yes.
Is there somebody else? Eric. He uses Eric to build the portal gun,
Yes.
which lets the Shatarian,
Yes.
which is Thanos' army.
Yes.
And it totally wrecks Iron Man's brain.
Yes.
After he saves everybody.
Yes.
He's
Yeah.
broken for the next 6 years,
Yes.
Yep.
which leads us to Civil War.
Yes.
Because
Correct.
let's just jump Ultron. It wasn't a bad movie, but
Well,
It doesn't really
Ultron
fit.
is where we meet Scarlet Witch and Vision, right?
yeah, it was basically a setup.
Yeah.
It was your Empire Strikes Back. You had to meet Ultron to set up Vision,
Right.
to set up the Mind Stone,
Right.
because otherwise Vision doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Because he is Ultron and Jarvis and Tony.
Yeah, I don't even fully.
How they did that.
Yeah, it's weird.
And
it's a weird,
also,
Paul Bettany.
no, he's also Paul Bettany, but he's also
that is correct.
Hulk. Bruce.
Yes. Yeah. Good point. Trying to hit the high notes. And then the Dark World happens.
So you watched Dark World.
Yes.
What? Why?
Because the
Like, what was
Reality Stone.
The Reality Stone.
Just for the Reality Stone. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, because I totally forgot it was in there. I thought I saw it on the list. They said watch this, and I'm like, why the heck am I going to watch this? And then you watch it, and it's like, oh, the Reality Stone is breaking everything and killing planets worth of people and becoming a weapon.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm tracking now.
Then Iron Man 3, Tony's more broken.
Yeah.
So
Just
Iron
wrecked.
Man 3, I don't think gets the love that it deserves. I love Iron Man 3, much like you love Spider-Man 3.
Spider-Man 2 and 3. Don't put that on me. We already did that one.
Right.
Oh, wait, I haven't put out the bad movie episode. You're going to spoil the next episode of Creator.
Sorry. sorry.
No, it's
sorry.
okay.
But I don't think it got enough love because I think that movie was so much fun. And at
I'm
the
not
same
here to
time
care
was-
about that right now.
So-
I'm
well,
trying to
no,
get to
no.
the meat of it.
I echo Andrew on that because I didn't love that was Mandarin, right? 3 was all about Mandarin.
That was
Yeah.
Mandarin, wink, wink.
Right, I know.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
think the thing that I didn't like is I really wanted Mandarin. I mean, it's been out for so long. So spoilers, if you haven't seen Iron Man 3, you screwed up.
Should we have said that at the beginning? If you haven't seen any Marvel movies,
Yeah,
this
well,
is not
whatever.
the right podcast.
Yeah. But I wanted Mandarin to actually be a bad guy, to be the Mandarin that we know. Right?
But didn't he have to have the Infinity Stones too to do that?
Right. But he didn't.
Instead of the
Same thing they haven't done with Adam Warlock yet.
Right. So I think that was what people hated about Iron Man 3, but altogether, it's not a bad movie. I wouldn't say it's a bad Iron Man.
It's definitely got so much character development.
Yeah, for sure.
Even like with him and Pepper,
Yep.
like setting up
Oh
stuff.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, sorry. Don't want to
it's okay.
deviate things. Patrick's gonna have a coronary. Let's keep
So
going.
after Dark World, we jump to Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
They introduced Sam.
Arguably one of the best movies in the MCU to me.
See, I think Iron Man 3 is better than Winter Soldier.
You're wrong.
Nope.
I've actually,
can't be wrong.
I actually would make the argument, we can circle back to this later, that Captain America is one of the best trilogies that's ever been made. All three of them put together.
I can buy into that.
Like as far as like the strict actual definition of what a trilogy is, like
Yeah.
3 movies that have one story and they all stand separate also. It's one of the strongest.
So much so that people think that Avengers is that the first that Captain America is actually the
Civil War,
actually an Avengers movie. Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I was trying to say. I'm like, why can't I get the words out?
No, it's fine.
I think we knew what you meant. Yeah, words don't really mean anything on podcast. You can just do whatever you want to. So Winter Soldier sets up a bunch of people and pushes the story along, and that's where Steve starts to fall out with the government. You know, in the first one, he's like, America, woo, they can, like, you know, any order that's given to him, he follows without fault. But it starts to kind of fade a little bit in Winter Soldier.
Right.
Age of Ultron, like we said, sets up S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra and the Vision. Ant-Man is more of just a placeholder.
Well, I think for now, Ant-Man will play a larger role later.
I liked Ant-Man. I thought it was a good, like, caper flick.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
a big fan of Paul Rudd in anything. So
then Civil War, which is probably the most important going into it, I think.
Sure.
yeah, I would agree with that. All right.
And
so,
then Black Panther.
What, Luke?
And then Black Panther.
Yeah.
And
Ragnarok.
And Spider-Man Homecoming.
Spider-Man Homecoming was a huge component to it.
But we're caught up. I think that gets us to it.
Yeah, that gets us where we need to go. All right, so we're gonna do an no spoiler review of the film real quick, and then we will let you know definitively when we're shifting. But we will shift hard, and once we shift, there will be no coming back. So
You can't stop.
yeah. So real quick, this movie picks up like Zach was saying. This movie picks up.
It's
where
5
all of
minutes
these-
after 5 minutes after Ragnarok.
Is that where? Is that really where it is? Okay, so 5 minutes after Ragnarok.
It picks up from the stinger of Ragnarok.
Right, exactly. So, so if you haven't seen that movie, you should before you go see this one. But it's you've seen it from all the commercials. Thanos and his group of children are hell-bent on finding all of the Infinity Stones, and they will go in this Infinity Gauntlet, which you are familiar with if you've seen any of the comic books or any of the movies prior. They've shown it several times when they've showed Thanos. But they are on this journey. This movie is comprised of them going to collect all 6 Infinity Stones from around the world and around the universe.
Yeah.
Because Thanos has this grand plan to bring balance to the universe. And I think that's all I want to say about that pre-spoilers, right?
Yeah.
So he's very powerful, obviously. He is kind of the summation, the culmination of what all these other movies and storylines have brought us to. And so obviously no one character, no one superhero, no one person can defeat him alone. So they band together all throughout the galaxy to come together and try to prevent that from happening. That's the general synopsis of the movie.
Yep.
I will say there's a ton of action, a ton of visuals. It is. I was concerned that we wouldn't have enough time with any one character or group of characters to tell a fair story or have a good showing. I think they did a great job of balancing all of the different storylines that had to come together for this ensemble movie. I thought they did a wonderful job, and it didn't feel kitschy. It didn't feel overdone or weird. I thought they did a great job bringing that together. And is there any more you guys want to say about the general review, and then we'll give our numbers?
Sure.
It's funny.
I was going to throw in 2 things. I was kind of walked in the movie ready to be bored for about 70% of it. Bored might be too strong, but like I was just expecting let me flip it and say it this way. It's pretty pedal to the metal from the beginning. So you will be interested. You'll like, it has your attention the whole time. Yes. It is really, I think the theme is pretty consistent. Just this idea of your friends versus life itself, and what the balance is and the importance, and how you decide where you side with that sits. And so it was it ended up, I just want to echo what you said. They managed to handle a lot of characters without it feeling like not enough time or like your attention is too split somehow. I will say that sometimes that was barely. Like sometimes it was on the edge of being too much, but I walked away very impressed. So generally speaking, it is absolutely a movie that will have your attention, and no matter where you fall on the number scale, I think it's undeniable that it is action packed.
Yeah, I mean, it was 10 years in the making, and so you go into this going, okay, how do we put all of these characters we've got to know over the last 10 years into a film together and make it feel like equal, kind of. And I think they did it well. I think some of those ancillary characters still feel super ancillary and they were just kind of shown because
ancillary man.
Yeah. They were just shown
Lost
because
an ancillary
because they're there. And they were just okay. The other two movies we didn't mention in the lead up is Guardians of the Galaxy, which is obvious,
my wife will be mad at me for that one.
But
those are her favorite ones.
Me too.
So
I loved those movies.
but yeah, I think just to echo what you guys said, I think they did a pretty decent job in giving everybody screen time without feeling like they had to give everybody screen time.
And it's undeniable that I don't know when we will ever experience this again in our lifetime. I mean, 10 years in the making, the quality of films that have been coming out, this many films, almost 20 now. I feel like this is a very special moment in cinematic history.
But in 10 years, we'll be saying that about Star Wars, I feel like.
Maybe.
I feel like.
Star Wars has had its turn.
Nah.
It's been fun. It's been fun, guys.
But yeah, no. I mean, do we want to go into numbers?
Yeah, let's go to numbers unless we're leaving out any first words.
My only thing was that you guys didn't talk about how funny it was. I was really surprised.
It's a lot funnier than I thought.
You journey an emotional gamut. There is a roller coaster.
All the emotions are high.
Yes.
All of them.
It is
Every extreme. Every extreme.
represented.
Except for
Luke,
boredom.
Except for what?
Boredom.
Boredom. Yeah.
True.
Is that? I guess
Maybe
that's an emotion.
eroticism. Is that an emotion? I don't know.
All right.
Well, I feel really bad about saying the next thing I say. My 7-year-old was crying for about 15 minutes.
You
my
took your
daughter.
7-year-old.
So there's 2 points.
Took the kids.
Yeah, there were 2 points in the movie where I was like, I could maybe cry. Like,
Yeah. Well, we'll get to we'll break all that down in the spoiler.
That is
portion
the
of
same
the
as
show.
Luke crying, by the way. Luke thinking to himself, I could see where someone could cry here. That is equivalent to
bawling.
All right, so we will let's jump into numbers and then we'll go into spoilers. So I'll go first. This movie definitely got a 10 for me.
Luke.
10.
Yeah, someone else take
10.
it.
Easy 10.
Zach.
9 out of 10.
Okay.
My number is contingent, but we won't know the answer for a bit. It's contingent on the next one. So
Why?
It could.
That doesn't make sense.
We'll get into it later. It could. I think it's a good movie, but the movie's going to depend a bit on the resolution.
You need to give a number now, though.
Give a number for
we're
this
not
movie.
recording this 3 years from now.
Yeah,
We're recording
give
it
a
right
number
now.
for this movie.
I'll set it a 9 too.
Okay,
I'll set it a
that's
9
fine.
as well.
Like a 9.2.
Yeah.
All
it's
right,
probably
so-
a 9 point, but that's where we're at.
That is the unspoiled version of this review. It's quick.
We will see you later.
We will see you later.
You
Yeah.
pirate angels.
Stop this and go immediately to your local theater and watch it. You do not want to wait on this movie. You don't want to. You don't want to. That being said, we are going to shift full bore into spoilers. Bye, everybody. In 3, 2, 1.
Spoiler time.
What the heck?
Holy crap.
Wait.
You guys. Half of the
okay.
world is dead.
I know.
Half of the universe.
So
Okay.
So
How would you
let's-
like to be that one person that didn't pause fast enough?
Right? I mean, okay, so here's the thing. The one thing that this movie did, and I mean, we'll just jump right to the end because this is where we got already, is leading up to it, they say the whole time, all he has to do, get the stone, snap his fingers, and he can reset everything. And you think like, oh yeah, they're gonna stop that before that happens. It doesn't.
Right.
Like that's what happens, and we're there.
Right.
And it's like, holy crap.
Oh,
I
man.
don't read comics, so
Okay.
I'm going to be probably the least informed person here. However,
No kidding, Tiger.
one of my closest friends loves to like tell me his theories and like tell me all like the stuff from the comics and stuff like that. In a big way, this is pretty decently aligned with what happens in the comic books.
Sure.
And so that it kind of like it wasn't unexpected is what I'm trying to say. The funny thing is I'm trying now not to spoil what comes next in the comics, but it just wasn't unexpected. So for me, I don't know that I had the same wow moment some people had because I from the moment I sat down, I assumed that's the
So
position we ended up in.
here's my wow part of that. I didn't think that we would get this far in this movie. I thought what we were going to see is leading up to 5 stones, and then the second in the next Avengers is finding that 6th stone. And that's the culmination, whether it's Vision or whether it's finding the Soul Stone, which had never been really talked about yet. I thought that was going to be our next movie. And this was like up to that point, but it just went full bore. Like now the timeline has kind of been, the world has been purged. What do we do from here?
So how do you feel about the tone the movie was left on? I'm going to throw out the softball questions, but where we ended, because it we're used to the cadence of these films.
Sure.
We're used to the kind of big first moment and then a lull, and then it moves up to like a surprising defeat, and then there's like a reemergence and like victory right at the end. And where we ended the movie was at the surprising defeat. Like we stopped.
Oh.
And so, what are your thoughts of that place we left off?
I love it.
I'm glad the formula's dead.
Yeah.
That kind of, because they've done that for years.
Sure,
I'm glad
yeah.
that's
A
over.
decade, yeah.
And not even them. Like, I'm also a big fan of wrestling, so I'm going to use a wrestling term here for a second. It's
Really?
when somebody really believes and falls for the storyline they've written, and the wrestlers are acting out, they're called a mark.
Yeah.
And I felt like a total mark while Scarlet is sitting there destroying it.
Mm-hmm.
I totally was into it. I'm like, okay, great. They're going to destroy the last one and
Right.
beat him. I totally forgot he had the time stone.
Right.
It's just the way they
Yeah.
wrote. Like, yeah, that's the way it worked in the comic books. But how many times have they said, screw the comic books
Sure.
and just done what they wanted
Sure.
to? That's kind of what I was expecting. So that was that.
Well, that's what I thought was
That
going to be
shift.
this is where movie 2 comes in. Because
Right.
for the longest time, when we saw it debut at Comic-Con, it was Infinity War Part 1 and then Part 2. And they've since dropped that naming, and they haven't even released, what the next movie's called yet, because it's going to be a spoiler, obviously.
Yeah.
I
but-
thought they did release it.
No, they don't.
No, they changed it. They like he said, they released in the first part
Yeah.
when it was
Okay.
part 2.
But
It's still done. It's still coming out next summer. They just haven't told us what the name is.
right. But I thought, that's where we would stop. They destroy the Mind Stone, and now it's, Thanos figuring out what he has to do to cleanse the universe to, right the path, so to speak. But no, he used that and wins.
So Patrick, you were asking about how we felt about the ending, like the cadence of it. So it ends with kind of like old man Thanos sitting happily on his front porch sipping lemonade, essentially.
Is he on Titan again? Is that what we're supposed to believe?
That's what I think we're supposed to believe.
That's my
I
guess
wouldn't
is
say
he
happy.
goes back in.
I mean,
Like
he
he restored
smiles,
it?
but he's definitely beaten up.
Well, but I think the idea that he set out to do what he was trying to do, and he was happy with himself that at least he fulfilled his destiny. He refers to it as his destiny when he's talking to Gamora, which, oh my gosh, like I knew that was coming, but I was like, oh, I was actually sadder than I felt like I should have been when Gamora died.
I felt for Thanos for a second. Like, it was crazy. So I went into this movie with ideas of a little bit of knowing the comics and what might happen. And I thought we might see a Thanos isn't necessarily the bad guy we think he is. Like, you might start maybe feeling a little bit more for the bad guy. And it ultimately never got there. But there were those moments, especially with like Gamora, of like, he really believes that this is the thing he has to do. And so he has to sacrifice his only daughter, so to speak. Like, that's a huge moment that really brought some humanity to him, so to speak.
I think part of it too is that Marvel's finally figured out. Yeah, I don't know how much is Kevin Feige's fault, but they finally figured out how to make a bad guy that's compelling and maybe not relatable, but you can at least, he's making his argument, and you can be like, okay, I see why you're saying that. You're still bat crazy.
Right.
There's a couple of screws loose. You're not doing it the right way, but Thanos, it's not the Vulture or anything, but same path.
Thanos never resonated with me like I hoped he would. I wanted to feel for him. In several of the reviews leading up to the film had referenced how he's the best villain, and how so much of the movie is spent really understanding this guy and where he's coming from and all this kind of stuff. And so that is what I expected for myself, is to, in some ways, be a mark, I guess, with that story. Although maybe it's true, and I don't know if it's a mark in that case. You can educate me on wrestling later. That's not the point. But I just never felt for it the way I was supposed to. So even during the scene with Gamora, it just didn't strike an emotional chord.
Did you buy that he was the big bad?
As far as like the baddest, that type of, well, you have to believe that based on the opening scene. I mean,
the movie falls apart if you can't at least buy into that part.
Yeah, right.
But you gave it a 9, so you bought into it a little bit.
Yeah, no, I definitely bought into him as a destructor, whatever type person.
The tragic dad part didn't land.
But yeah, exactly. That just didn't hit for me at all. So
tragic dad.
So jumping back. By the way, I'll get to that. So what was so looking back over the movie, or thinking back of the movie, what were the kind of standout moments for you, or what were the highlights in the film, like those big moments?
Any scene with Star-Lord in it. I loved, and with Drax. I mean, I'm a huge Guardians of the Galaxy fan. I mean, you can see it on the poster behind me if you're watching. I mean, huge.
We should all start talking like this.
But that it was so necessary. And initially, I liked it because it was fun. But then after I watched the movie, I realized how necessary that tone needed to be, given the weightiness and the heaviness of the rest of the movie.
Sure.
We needed Star-Lord and Drax in this movie. If we didn't have the two of them in there, Peter Parker couldn't do it on his own. And it was really just Peter as the comic relief besides the two of them in this movie. There were a couple other quippy statements, but they weren't enough to carry a film. And we so badly needed it. And so anytime that happens, but specifically the scene where they pick up Thor for the first time, and Gamora is rubbing Thor's muscular arm and describing.
Wait. No, keep going. I want to circle back to probably one of my favorite parts.
I thought maybe you wanted to picture this moment.
No, it was really good.
And then he drops his voice, and he's imitating him, and
you're copying me.
Drax tells him that he's like an angel and a pirate had a baby.
It's like a pirate and an angel had a baby.
That's what I wanted to circle back to.
I died. I mean, it was
a pirate had a baby with an angel.
Yeah.
That and Drax eating those chips, and he's like, "I have learned to stay so still. I'm invisible."
I just love that whole.
Hi, Drax.
Star-Lord is like, "Where'd this dude come from?"
Damn it!
How long have you been?
That is not a dude.
There?
That is not a dude. That is a man.
That is a man. That is not a dude. You're a dude. That is a man.
It was, I mean, Dave Bautista, his run, I'm so sad that seemingly his run as Drax has gone the full length of its lifespan. he brought so much to that character, brought so much to the Marvel universe. So I truly, really appreciated those moments.
It was a great surprise, even in the first Guardians, just how well he did. Everybody went into it like, oh, he's just trying to be the Rock, and then he nailed it.
So much more. It's so good.
So I think for me, one of the standout moments would be when we finally got Ragnarok Thor back. For some reason, he was missing at the beginning of the film, and obviously we follow him as he's trying to go to the restart the furnace and forge a new weapon and all those things. And so we finally get him back when he comes to Wakanda. And I would say that was a very big moment of the movie for me. It was a little frustrating how handicapped it felt, not feeling like we had the same Thor at the beginning of the film, and then also the absence of the Hulk. That was very...
For almost the entire movie.
I think that was very frustrating for me, and it was kind of hard to understand why.
Did we? Oh, I guess he was in the beginning, wasn't he? That very first fight on the ship
when he got,
and then you got half a Hulk.
Yeah, and that's so once we finally kind of got back to that moment when on Wakanda, I think that was a highlight for me. The other thing is so again, I don't read the comics. This was new to me, but the introduction for me of Ebony Maw. I love that character, and learning more about the character after the film, it made me, assuming that death is final in this case, it really bums me out that that's all we're going to see of Ebony Maw, because that character is incredible and to me has so much potential, especially in that like villain role. I guess he's like a sub-villain in this case, but he was also a highlight for me as well.
I mean, he's spooky Yuki.
Yeah.
It's tough to fight against him.
Yeah, and I love the idea that his power, even though he's capable of violence, basically, he wants strategy. Like that's how he wants to beat people, is through like strategy and using like his intellect. And I just feel like there's so much potential in that for just really awesome battles, especially when you're combining, someone like Doctor Strange. But anyway, go ahead, Andrew.
I'm just gonna I feel like this is just a smorgasbord of conversation, right? We're not.
Well, we're in high moments right now, so the natural next place is what are the?
I'm gonna say my high moments. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
Hit it, man.
I would say, I think the thing that I really liked, and I don't know if this is high moments or just the thing I really liked about the film is taking these groups that we know already and just mixing up the players and putting them in different groups. You know what I mean? So we see...
Yeah, switching them up.
I really liked seeing Spider-Man, Iron Man, and Doctor Strange with Star-Lord. Like, that was the groups that we ended up with in the movie felt good. Like, they didn't feel like there wasn't a group that I didn't care about, because I cared about all of those characters. And none of them got boring. None of the storylines felt boring. They all felt like they all needed to happen. I think maybe if I was going to say, a high point was just I think getting back that humanity and maybe the feeling that Tony Stark really does care. Getting that back, because it felt so much for so long that he's just kind of jaded, and he's also just the guy. He's like the superstar of the Avengers, and he's the guy that like is the face and is the one making things happen because nobody else is. And you're seeing he's doing all of that, and he's acting the way he does because he really is terrified and he cares about keeping the world safe. And I really, really like that, because he's the guy that started it all. And so to bring it back to like this story of kind of why he is who he is and why he chose to don the suit and be a protector it felt really good.
What was
Yeah.
that line he said? Like, Thanos has been in my head for 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I get to deal with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there were almost endless good things, like high
Let me
moments.
tell you, I don't think I told you mine. One of mine, well, I had two really that we can talk about now. When Gamora and Star-Lord, Mantis, and Drax are trying to figure out where they're going to go, and they realize Thanos is going to nowhere,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they show up, and it looks like nothing's happened.
Yeah.
And then she thinks she killed Thanos, and she loses it.
Yeah.
Which I think that added to the tragic dad thing I was talking about earlier
Yeah.
for me anyway. Sitting next to my daughter, and I'm not an
that
evil
actually
Time
did
Lord,
connect
but
with me. That moment did connect with me. Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, like even we can get into how abusive childhoods and stuff works, but it was just, my daughter was like, "What's wrong with her?" And I was like, "It's complicated. We'll talk later."
Yeah.
Right.
Don't
But
worry
then-
about it, sweetie.
And even the master, like, I wish Benicio del Toro was in everything he's in longer, but for those 2 minutes, he was great.
Yeah.
And then
I was just glad
none of
we
it
didn't
was-
see Howard the Duck again. I felt like it would have been pandering at that point.
yeah, unless you're going to give him a movie, please just stop putting
Just
him
stop
in stuff.
showing him, please. Yes, thank you.
But and then none of it's real. Thanos was manipulating the Reality Stone. I think that was besides him killing half of Gamora's planet, I think that was the first time I was like, oh, he's only got 2 stones and he's already doing this on like such a big scale. Because that's not just localized. The whole thing was on fire.
Yeah.
Right.
And then anytime Thor and Rocket were on screen,
Yeah. It was just fantastic.
I was like, I wanted
am-
more of that.
I am an idiot because I knew Benicio del Toro played the Collector. I remember that from the last film we saw him, which would be Guardians, right? And I was convinced that was someone else that took his role. I was convinced that was not Benicio del Toro. The hair and everything just looked wrong to me. And I was like, until you I just checked I just fact checked you. It was him, but I was
Was I right?
convinced
Okay.
that was not him for some reason. So that's it. I'm just dumb. That's what I want you to know. That's the takeaway. Okay, so high points. Next natural thing would be low points. So for me, many of the things that were my high points also kind of flip and have a low moment. Again, I hate the fact that Ebony Maw was basically introduced and thrown away so quickly. That was a very frustrating thing for me. I did not connect with Thanos as that type of he actually is very loving and it comes from a good place or whatever. I guess I'm not empathetic with the idea of killing half of humanity. It's hard for me to get on board in any case. And so I feel like I missed something because of that. I think the thing that bothered me the most about the film though would be that no one laughed at the Grimace joke.
I did.
And that hurt me
laughed.
so bad.
Heck yeah, I
My
laughed.
theater was silent during that joke.
Our theater laughed.
And
You're
that,
like, no one knows who Grimace is.
I would say that was
Yeah,
the
that
biggest
was
thing.
the sad moment. The sad moment is that too many people in that room were too young to know who Grimace was.
No, but the last thing I would say, Doctor Strange. I think I was a little surprised at the way everything turned out. Now I think it's an easy cop out. Could sound strong to say that. Well, he's already seen the one true way, and so he knows he needs to give up his stone, or he knows when he needs to lay back or whatever, because he knows the 1 out of 14 million chances, 14 million tries where it works. So it's easy to ultimately blame it all on that. However, given some of the things we've seen, where using portals to cut people's hands off and things like that, and the ability that he has to at any point open a portal and go back to Earth or move around, I guess I expected more from that last encounter with Thanos. It seems like Doctor Strange had more power and more ability than he leveraged in that fight. And not only that, he has the ability to turn back time, correct? So when Quill freaks out and kind of ruins taking off the gauntlet, why didn't he just turn back time and go back to that moment?
Well,
it's hard for me to understand why it played out the way it did, given his ability.
I would say just an easy way of why he didn't, just in that exact example, is he was too busy holding Thanos down with other things. He couldn't do the motions to do that time manipulation.
That's one thing that sucks. That's his kryptonite, is that he has to be able to have his hands free to be able to do the things.
Sure.
Like he can't say expecto
Can you edit that in,
patronum.
Luke? Thanks.
Yeah, and if you can edit in Patrick's motions and do the whole thing that they do for
Thank you.
Not gonna
Minority
happen.
Report it. Yeah, I agree. It stinks that's how. I mean,
Yeah, that
everyone
whole-
has their Achilles heel, I guess.
That whole scene kind of bothered me because like Gamora's whining about it too. I'm like, why don't you just slit his throat? Like you're just standing there. You got a knife. Everybody else is holding his head. Why don't you just finish him off?
Wait, Gamora
Then
wasn't
I was
there.
like, oh yeah, plot story, not Gamora, Nebula.
Oh,
You know,
right.
on that note, why didn't Gamora just off herself? She's telling Peter that like
She
he
tried
needs
to.
like
She tried
Well,
to.
right
it
there
was
at the
it
end,
was a
but-
beat too late.
the selfishness in the film when we have again humanity and whatever you call other species of other planets at stake. It's I understand like there's a piece of it that's well they're just being their character. That's who they are. Peter can't help but to freak out in the moment and blah blah blah. When you have half of the universe at stake, people seemed really selfish all throughout this film. Whether it's not killing Gamora or Gamora waiting too long to try to off herself or waiting too long to try to kill a Vision or that theme was like grating on me for the whole film.
I think that's
just the-
I hear you. Yes, that would be an easy way to solve the tension points of the film, but I feel like those were real. Like if you had the power to destroy the stone in Vision's head, you would not want to kill him. Like if you loved him, right? Like it feels. I didn't have any problem with her waiting so long to do it because that's the hardest decision to make ever, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't.
Especially with an alternative. They
Yeah,
had
I
something
mean-
else to try.
Right.
I get it on a core level, I do, but on the surface level, I was like, come on, just do it already.
Just off the dude. Now, on that note, I think that does set up. Well, sorry, everybody else though. Low points of the film. I think I was the one that talked a lot just now.
Well,
But
my low point is I don't think Thanos acted powerful enough. Like I don't think any of the stuff that happened on Wakanda when he finally got there should have happened. Like at that point he had 5 stones. He should have been able to no problem just go through and get the other stone without anything. Like he's so powerful he could have manipulated reality or whatever. Like there's so many things he could do with all the rest of those stones to make anything that they tried to do at the end there not matter.
Obsolete.
Yeah. And I think if you're talking about how powerful those stones truly are, I don't think we really saw that power at all. And so it made it feel like, are they that powerful? Because he seems like he's having a harder time than he really needs to get these things once he gets rolling, I think that's my
Mine
biggest
was
problem.
almost the same thing, but with Scarlet Witch.
Sure.
I think she was way more powerful. I mean, they've shown her doing crazier things in other movies.
Mm-hmm.
In this one, they kind of held her back a little bit, I think. I mean, just what she did to the Vision in Civil War,
Yeah.
where she like turns his gravity up,
Right.
Oh
and
yeah.
throws him through
Yeah.
through the ground. I don't know how deep, but super deep. And then she doesn't do any of that to those aliens or to Thanos or anything.
Right.
But
Well,
My biggest low moment
go ahead.
is not a function of the movie as much as it is people who died. When Peter Parker died,
can you play
don't
like
do
an
it,
in
man. Don't do it,
memoriam?
man.
I teared up
Yeah.
when he died because first of all, we talked about this. We talked about this as a group, even the 4 of us. Tom Holland, he is the essence of Spider-Man. He freaking killed it. And
It's the best.
I was really looking forward to another iteration of that and to seeing his character, continue on. And the father It ended up being father-son type relationship. It was originally the mentor-mentee relationship, but as Tony Stark holds him as he kind of dissipates into that ash, dude, it was rough for me. My heart was racing the entire second half of the movie. My heart was racing. I know my blood pressure was probably through the roof. I don't know how anybody could get up. Like, there were moments that were like so quiet a pin could drop.
Yeah.
In our theater, at the end, a couple of people. This is kind of deviating a little bit. At the end, a couple of people when the credits came on, a couple people clapped and someone yelled at them.
What?
They're like, don't clap at this.
What a bummer. Let people enjoy things. Anyway.
But the moments where he died was so somber to me. Like I felt it. You know, it was.
What about like Black Panther reaching for his sister?
Oh my gosh, it was.
Or not his sister, his general.
It was rough. Like it was, and Star-Lord, like almost the entire Groot.
Well, okay, I'll say this. I feel like so the thing was, I'll give you this stone if you'll spare Tony's life.
Yeah.
And so when people started disintegrating, it hit me that he will spare Tony's life, but he will make sure everyone else around him is gone. And
but here's the deal, though. I don't think he got to choose who died. I think it was very random.
No. I will disagree. He does say initially. So going back when he initially started, he does say that he had intended for it to be like roll the dice, rich, poor, doesn't matter.
He was talking about Titan. That's what he did on Titan.
Right, that's what he wanted to do. And that's what he did. The 50%, or I guess maybe he didn't do it on Titan, and Titan died, and then it. Whatever, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, he didn't do it on Titan, and then.
But that's
Titan
what he wanted to do. Is the completely doesn't matter, rich, poor, background, anything, luck of the draw, 50-50. I do not think that's what he did. At least not completely in this case, because to me, some of it seemed random, and some of it seemed like in Tony's case, very specific to leave him alone up there, like to spite him. Spite might be too strong of a word, but it kind of felt like that to me.
I felt like maybe it was 50-50 plus one. Because I think everything was random except Tony. Like I agree with you. Tony was left on purpose, but like with Gamora's planet, it was totally random.
I feel like exactly that. I think Tony was the one that was picked to stay. Everybody else was random. And I almost feel like, I know there's probably a lot of planning for the next phase of MCU and what's going to happen, but it almost feels like they put everybody on a board and threw darts on who's the ones that are going to go away at the end of this movie. Because like, I mean, I had visions, and we're full spoilers, so it doesn't matter where this goes, but I thought Cap was going to be gone, and we were going to see Bucky take up the mantle of Captain America, but Bucky's gone.
Well, but who do we have?
Did Sam die too, didn't he?
Yes.
Because I thought Sam was going to take Cap, but you're right, he's gone too.
Don't we have the original Avengers? Like, if we think about the first Avengers film, don't we have all the originals left, though?
Yes. Except Hawkeye, which they'll probably go find him.
He'll be back.
That's a good point.
He'll come back.
That's Clint, right?
Yeah, Clint's coming back.
Yeah, so.
Clint's coming back as his other... If you read the comics,
as Ronan?
Yeah, as Ronan.
So we're back to the original cast. I think
we're back to the people whose contracts end next movie.
Right.
Yeah.
I know we'll get to go through a whole. I mean, okay. Realistically, they're going to find a way to undo the snap.
Right? Maybe.
All right, let's talk about that, because I have a point about that.
Here's the thing, though.
Luke, you're trying to say something.
Well, the stinger was Miss Marvel, right? Is what we're going to see.
Yeah. The Nova Corps.
Captain Marvel.
Nova Corps. Yeah, but
Nick Fury calls the Nova Corps.
But in the new Avengers, here's the thing that's weird though, because the new Avengers, Spider-Man's part of that.
Yeah, he is. And like Ant-Man and Wasp are in that,
which is fine. We haven't seen them.
Yeah,
but Spider-Man is definitely part of the new Avengers, and that's what's like. Wait, what is going on?
Well, we see, and obviously we know that there's the ability to turn back time.
Reverse time.
We see that, and all the power is held in the gauntlet. So there has to be the assumption that someone is going to get the gauntlet and turn this back. I mean, I have to believe that.
I don't have glasses anymore. So Andrew, can you push your glasses up for me real quick? I'm getting ready to go. All right,
Yeah,
thank
go
you.
full nerd
In the
on us.
comic books, Wanda as Scarlet Witch is a mutant, not a whatever the heck she is in Avengers in the MCU. But at one point, she uses her powers to wipe out all mutants because that's how powerful her stuff
Right.
is. And she doesn't kill them; she takes away their mutant abilities until the Reality Stone is used to restore everything. So I have the idea that, and it's probably not that unheard of or out of nowhere, but in the next movie, they're going to get the gauntlet and reuse the Reality Stone to restore people. Now, here's where me and my wife go separate ways with this. I think only the people who disintegrated are going to come back. I think the people who died are gone.
And who
I
are the
follow
people
that.
that
Loki,
died?
Gamora.
I
see.
fall in that
Okay.
camp. Yeah.
Like Loki.
I just think otherwise there's no stakes.
Yeah.
It doesn't, it doesn't mean anything for people to die in the
I would
movies.
concur with that.
And that's
So
my point.
Gamora's
That would
gone.
kind of void a bit of the promise of this film, which is the reason I say it's contingent on how the next one turns out. I want there to be stakes. I want there to be finality. I think you have to, after a decade, we have to break the cycle, and we're like on the cusp of that. I do think that the snap will be reversed. I think that everyone that disintegrated will come back. I don't think that means that we're going to get out of the next film and everybody's going to be alive.
Sure.
And I tend to fall in
Yeah.
the camp of this is the last we've seen Loki. I tend to believe that.
Yeah.
And same thing with the other characters that
At
died
least that
way.
Loki, and again, there's room in the comic books and other places for Loki to come back in a different form.
Sure.
Really?
Well, I thought
Yeah.
so.
like he's a woman at one point.
So what I thought.
And not like
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say the only other time I remember a sacrifice in all these is Groot.
Right.
Because everybody's like, oh, he's a baby now. But no, if you ask James Gunn, Groot is dead.
Right.
That is another Groot.
Yeah.
It's essentially the son of the first Groot.
Right. Right.
I'll default to James Gunn on that one.
So the other thing that I thought we were going to see happen, and this is kind of a next point or whatever, is in the other thing. Another timeline in the comics was when Thanos does this, he takes everything back and erases himself from the equation. Back in, I can't remember what arc it was, but he uses the gauntlet to kind of reset the timeline and take himself out and the stones out.
Well, there's definitely so I'm not sure about that piece. I know there's a deviation that in the comic, when people were erased, you didn't realize that they died. They just did not exist anymore, and there wasn't a
There wasn't a
they
loss.
just weren't
no memory
there.
of
And
them?
so you just didn't know they were gone because there wasn't a memory of it. So based on the way this movie ended, that is not the case.
Right.
I mean, people were watching people disintegrate, and they were seeing it happen, and like there were these moments happening. So certainly that's a deviation. But no, I am. It absolutely left me incredibly excited for the next film. Certainly, I just imagine so I went to the 7:30 showing, and I imagine if someone was walking in to like the 10 o'clock. Just to see all these depressed people just head down,
Yeah.
walking out of the theater, completely quiet. It was a very odd. I've never walked out of a Marvel film that way.
Yeah.
But in a weird way, that actually pumped me up for the next film.
Sure.
Because it does feel very real
Yeah,
now.
because you're a masochist.
Well, it makes me want to watch them all again now. Like I watched a few leading up to it, but it makes me want to rewatch everything again, especially Doctor Strange. Like I wish I would have watched that again because I forgot how much I just loved that world, that part of the world.
Yeah. Now, I think, and again, going back to what I said before we started spoilers, I think the theme, and I complained that it seemed like a lot of people were selfish. The thing they were constantly confronted with is saving friends. And the idea of friends has been something that's been threaded through very explicitly the Guardians, the last couple of films. But friends versus other people. And what will you do to protect those friendships? And what will you do to save your friends versus, in this case, humanity? And certainly we know that Tony Stark, we know what side he falls on.
Sure.
But it seems like Captain America and Quill and they fall on the other side. So what other what were the other like theme wise, like the big takeaways from the film that you picked up on?
As far as themes are concerned, man.
Never let the furnace go out.
Yeah. Oh gosh, can we just? Well, no, that's we're on themes right now. I don't know that. I think the biggest theme was be true to what you know is right, because then you can have all the power in the universe.
Well said.
Because like I think about it, and so like you have issues kind of relating to or connecting with Thanos. I didn't. Like there was moments where I was like, oh, I kind of get it.
Yeah.
Like I understand his plight, and it's not unlike the plight of many other megalomaniacs. They think what they're doing is the absolute right thing to do, and it's like they see what needs to be done, and everyone else thinks they're crazy. Like I get that. Like I see that, and I can empathize with that. I think where this film goes, the next film, whatever happens with it, that will determine whether or not I think that theme, whether or not they achieved that theme. Because at the end of this movie, I definitely got the feeling that he was like, I did what needed to be done. I'm just going to rest, much like God did when he created the earth.
That would be the one time, I don't know that empathy is the word, but I did get it in that moment. I didn't believe the connection to Gamora, that it was as deep as it needed to be in the Soulstone scenario. I didn't believe that at all. And I didn't buy into this idea of balance. I can buy into the idea of culling, but the approach was a bit, I don't know. But viewing it, like getting to see it from the angle of like, I am not doing this to be all powerful. It's purely a utility, and someone has to step up and do it. And if no one's going to, then I'm going to step up and do it. Him sitting down to rest at the end, I think, kind of hammered that point home a little bit more.
Sure.
And that idea I connected with, and it did humanize him in that moment for me.
So
even the scene with the baby Gamora after he snaps his thumb, wherever he goes to, I don't know where that's even supposed to be. If it's a mindscape or somewhere else.
The fact that it's always her.
Yeah, what did it cost? Did you do it? What did it cost? He said everything. I was like, oof.
Right.
Yeah, because he's not a good dude. No one's trying to.
Yeah, he's a bad guy.
Thanos is the hero of this movie.
He's the bad.
He's definitely the he's more of an anti-hero, but he is the big bad guy. But the Soul Stone never said it had to be true love or like real love or anything, but it had to be something you loved. Mm-hmm. And that was the one thing that he loved.
Yeah.
More than anything was this weird, twisted relationship he had with what he called his daughter.
Yeah. So can we just address the 40-foot tall dwarf in the room?
It was weird, man.
So okay,
it felt ironic to me. Like, was it intended to be ironic?
So leading up to it, there were things leaked of him being on set, and the latest rumor was that he was Corvus Glaive's voice. That was him, and because we saw. There was like a 2-minute thing.
Who is Corvus Glaive?
Corvus Glaive is the one with the spear that stabbed Vision in the torso.
He snuck into the lab.
Yeah,
at the end.
That was the one. So it was rumored that he was his voice because when he's laying on the ground, it's the first time you hear him speak.
Green Goblin.
Yeah, when he says, "I can't get up," she's like, "Get up," and he's like, "I can't." That sounds a little bit like Dinklage. And so that's the rumor that it was him. That's who he was going to be. It turns out that's Michael James Shaw as Corvus Glaive, and he's another guy that you would know from other things like Constantine and stuff. But anyway, it was really hard to figure out who he was, and then for that to be his character, I think that may be the one thing I didn't love. Is it just it felt weird.
But the funniest line of the film to me was but this will kill you. And he's like, but only if I die. It's like,
when Thor's getting ready to stay,
the
he's like,
funniest
you're gonna
line
take
was
a whole
the
star.
pirate angel baby. That's the best.
Pirate angel.
but
the way that he did this really subtle eyebrow furrow where he goes, that's what kill means. Like, and his eyebrows just do this one little like tweak.
Yeah.
I agree. That line was incredible.
It was great.
But I felt like, and I don't know, and maybe you know what, this isn't even worth saying because I don't want to bring hellfire raining down on me. So I won't even say it. But I thought that it was weird and it took me out of the story for a bit. I then had to remind myself, okay, all of this is fantasy. This isn't like the one thing that's out of place. It just, in my mind, I know who Peter Dinklage is, and just seeing him 40 feet tall compared to somebody else, like for me, that was
the idea
an
of a
issue.
big person, little person is what took you out of the film.
Yeah, for a beat, yeah.
It felt, his character felt, I don't care about that aspect of it. It's just his character felt too on the nose to other characters he's played. And so I think that's what felt weird. Like he didn't seem different enough, I guess, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like he just, I don't know. I didn't love it. I didn't love that character.
Okay, here's the thing. So we're looking at something right now. Who's sharing this? Is this
Zach.
you?
This is
Zach?
me.
Okay,
it's
so
a piece
Zach-
I'm working on based on that scene.
Yeah, so you're working on the axe that Storm breed.
Stormbreaker.
Stormbreaker.
Push your glasses up for me again, because
Here
here
we
comes
go.
a nerd alert. That's Beta Ray Bill's
Yes.
weapon in the comics.
I don't know what that means.
Beta Ray Bill is the horse
Beta Ray
face
Bill
Thor.
was another person. Yeah,
Horse face Thor.
So
but there's the axe.
I love that the handle for his new weapon is Groot's arm.
Yeah.
Because that means Groot will live on beyond this. And at the time, I didn't understand the meaning. Like, I didn't get how meaningful it would be. But now, it means a lot, at least to me, because I'm a huge fan of Groot. I'm sad to see him go, even if it's for but a fleeting moment.
It's the best thing Vin Diesel's ever done.
Oh, yeah, hands down. You die on film?
Hold on. Let me walk that back just a second. It's probably tied with Iron Giant. Okay, Iron Giant
yeah.
and Groot.
Yeah,
okay.
that's- yeah.
Just wanted to make that distinction.
Well,
messed
just
up.
speaking to Groot's character in this whole, I mean, there's a certain point in the movie where you hate his character. It's like, all right, kid, like stop being a jerk and just be part of the team. And that point where he gives himself as the handle is like, oh, okay, you're not just a punk. That doesn't care. You're like,
it brings you back to the Groot from Guardians 1 where we are Groot.
Yes.
It brings you back to the we are Groot.
yeah.
yeah.
And it was cool. It was a good point.
Okay, we've been chatting for
An
how
hour.
long?
Yeah, let's land
an
this
hour.
ship.
Okay, we need to start wrapping. So, we've talked about our highs, we've talked about our lows, we've talked about all the ins and outs of it. We at the beginning of the episode gave our numbers. Are there any final moments that we need to make sure we cover before we head out of this one? Because we've covered a lot of stuff.
I think I'll reiterate what I said before. You know, the first Avengers, I remember reading articles that talked about how it wasn't grand enough. You know, we had this big scene, but there's only like 5 people flying through the air, and it just didn't live up to the idea of this. And actually, let me correct. I said Avengers, but I'm talking about actually Civil War. Civil War is when the battle takes place at the airstrip, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like the complaints that it wasn't a big enough battle, that this was supposed to be like dozens of people facing off against each other, and it's like 6 guys. And then I think about other films too, where we're trying to set up a larger universe, and I think about like getting torn between trying to introduce these characters and set these stories in place and manage them while trying to tell one coherent story. And then I look at the film I just saw, and it's gotten very good reviews, don't get me wrong, but I'm still hearing it's just too many people and it's too chopped up and there's not enough depth in one single area. And I just want to echo that I think you're hard pressed to represent this many people as clearly as they do together, telling a cohesive like single story while also keeping the core of people's character intact. I just don't know that there could have been much of a better job done. So
Sure.
I think the film I feel like is really great for that reason. And I can't wait to watch it again. So it's I would say for the Marvel films, the now almost 20 that we have, it's a top 3 film for me.
Do you guys know Ben Stafford?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a buddy of mine. He's an illustrator. He went to see it last night, and I saw him tweeting about it, and I just said, hey, send me your thoughts real quick. And one thing he said was that the movie starts in Act 2. And I think that's, of all the Marvel movies, you could pretty much jump in and out of them if you wanted to. If you had never seen any Marvel movie and you watched Winter Soldier, I don't know why you would, but if you did, you could pretty much come to terms with it. Even if you watch Civil War,
Sure.
it's pretty self-contained. You might not enjoy it as much as someone who's seen all of them. This is the first Marvel movie I think you can't enjoy without watching the others.
Yeah, you can't jump in
Like
here.
Act 1 was all 18 of those movies.
Yeah.
All 19 of those movies. And those are the setup. There is you get hit right in the face.
Yeah, and
If you haven't seen Thor Ragnarok, you don't know what's going on in the beginning.
They don't recall. They don't recall any of the stuff. It's not like they do like they don't over explain anything. Like, oh, remember when you had this and this guy did this thing?
Yeah.
Like how they do a lot in those movies where there's a culmination.
I don't want to bash DC too much because I think they might be on the uprise soon. I've heard good things about Aquaman coming up, which I never thought I would have said that ever at any point in my life, that the Aquaman movie might be good.
He was my favorite part about besides Wonder Woman, who was incredible, but besides that, Aquaman was my favorite.
What's the one with all the villains?
Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad. Sinister Six is Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like Suicide Squad, they introduced the characters 3 times before anything happens.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if they just thought the audience wasn't smart enough or that they didn't write the screenplay well enough to figure out a way to not have to do that. But the fact that Marvel and Kevin and Disney could do this, and I don't feel like I lost anything and I don't feel like they were talking down to me,
Right.
says a lot about what they've earned over 20 years and where they're going to go in the next 20 years.
I'm
10 years, excuse me, 20 movies, 10 years.
Right. I think that you're dead on. I think that was the takeaway for me, was how good this movie was as a standalone film, but not that you could watch on its own, but that as a film, it had everything that I wanted it to have, and it had stuff that I didn't even know I wanted, but made it a really good film, which was drama, true emotional drama, that they brought to the superhero genre.
Sure.
And they did it beautifully, and
we didn't even talk about some of the surprises. Like, I never thought Red Skull would pop
I
back
know,
up.
that was the
especially as
best.
dramatic as he did.
That was the best.
The audience I was with went,
Okay, so here's the thing. Here's the one thing that I noted and I forgot to mention when we were talking about the connection between Thanos and Gamora. Red Skull was supposedly, he knows a lot. He's cursed with this knowledge of people. And he talks Thanos, son of whoever. And then when he speaks to Gamora, he says Gamora, son, daughter of Thanos. And that's like, that connection is real. That's what the universe sees, is that they are father and daughter. Whether or not that's true, whether Gamora sees it or not, that's the reality. And I thought that was really interesting how that played out.
yeah.
What about when there's so much we didn't talk about. We could keep circling back. Like Captain America showing up. That was probably the coolest entrance
Oh, yeah.
of any character ever.
Brought me back to.
Here's the one thing I didn't like with Captain
Dumbledore
America.
showing up on the train platform.
I agree with that. Here's the one thing I didn't like about the whole Captain America thing is T'Challa says, get this man a shield. And he didn't really have a shield. He just had like arm pads. Like, that was stupid. Where's his shield?
Well,
Get this
it kind of
get this
bugged me
man
that
some-
like Bucky, like these people have like these adamantium laser cannon weapons thing, and Bucky's there with his like little machine gun, just like.
Yeah, I agree. So here's another thing that maybe
he also didn't use his vibranium arm at all.
Yeah.
When Rocket asked if he could buy it, though.
That was funny. I'll get that
I'll
arm.
get that arm.
Here's the one thing that maybe is an underlying maybe problem I have with the film, and I'm just now processing it.
Did I say vibranium or did I say something else?
You did.
You said adamantium, but that's okay.
It's fine.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, wait, wrong movie. Trademark,
Wrong movie.
trademark.
Vibranium. Sorry.
But it's all Marvel, so it's all fine.
So here's the one thing I don't like
then Luke.
is a lot of these superheroes didn't feel super. Like they did some, like it was just powerful people fighting powerful people. But if you think to the end in the battle at Wakanda, like you had T'Chaka and some of these other like members, these other Wakandan tribes fighting alongside these superheroes, seemingly doing just as much damage as everybody else was. And I felt like, where's the difference in what makes a superhero versus what makes a Wakandan? Or, you know what I mean? Like, it just didn't feel like those superheroes were as super as they could have been.
Yeah, it nerfed them because there were so many of them.
Right. And that's, I don't like that. I don't like that idea that I have.
I did like when Scarlet Witch comes down and she does her thing and
she's like,
and she
why
goes,
was she up there?
Why did she? Yeah, why is she just not coming here? So I think they addressed it a little bit. Okay, we could probably continue to talk
forever.
for more hours, but we can't. If you want to continue the conversation, join us on our Discord channel. We will have a channel dedicated to movies where we can spoil the crap out of it.
M1podcast.com/family.
Yeah, but holy crap! I mean, go see this film before you talk
to us about it.
If you're listening at this point,
You screwed up.
and yeah,
Whoops.
I'm
Spoiler alert.
I'm gonna leave that comment out.
No, you're not.
I'm not gonna finish that comment. How about that? But let us know your thoughts. Hit us up on the Discord channel. Let us know on the social media. For me, I loved it. It was everything I needed it to be. So we're going to get out of here. But hey, Zach, tell everybody where they can find you if they want to hear you geek out and nerd out over all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, you can find me on all the socials as ZS Wilkinson, or you can find me on the Creatoring podcast. It's Creator ING show on Twitter or on iTunes, and I know you guys talk about this all the time, but find it on iTunes, give it 5 stars and the like, because those are super duper important.
They absolutely are. And on that note, I mean, do the same for us. Subscribe, rate, review, do all of that stuff. Find us on mf1podcast.com where you can find show notes and links, all the stuff. Well, we really only talked about one thing, but you can find that link there, as well as a ton of incredible episodes with amazing artists and creators from all around the world and from every different medium. And we have a shop that's open now, so go to shop.mf1podcast.com to get some fun swag. And you too can have a hat like Patrick and a pin like Patrick, and a mug. The mug is fun. So just
right-handed or Luke-handed.
Yeah, it's right-handed or Luke-handed. And then there's a couple of different shirts on there. So support the show, and then
do the shirts come in left-handed?
Yes, the shirts come in left-handed. But otherwise, find us on social, MF1 Podcast everywhere. Support the show on Patreon, MF1 Podcast on Patreon. It's patreon.com/MF1
Did we say
Podcast.
enough about Patreon? Should I mention that we have 2 new patrons this week?
Yes, you should.
Yeah.
Talk about them.
All right. Well, now I got to pull them up. This is going to take forever.
Well, you mentioned it.
I should have done it before this
I
moment.
guess you should answer yourself. Should you have mentioned that?
Yeah, but I know that you're going to fix this.
Nope, not at all. This is all staying. This is great.
So wait, let's see. I got to search it in my phone.
Search it in your phone. Patreon.
Every time Thor called Rocket Raccoon Rabbit.
Oh, it was so good.
gosh.
Lost it.
Favorite part. All right, so 2 new patrons this week. We added Ernie Zielsdorf, better known as Lightning and Arrows.
Yeah, thanks, Ernie.
Cool dude.
Yeah, thanks,
Great
bud.
dude. And then we added a Zach Wildkind son.
I don't know him. He sounds like a jerk.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He sounds
I'd
swell.
listen to him talk.
But he's giving us money, so we like him anyway. No, Zach, I appreciate it, man. What's funny is
dude.
here's what's
Support cool stuff.
genuinely. I knew 2 people had signed up this week. Well, I didn't remember it was you. You were one of them.
It just worked out that way. Well, we're going to get out of this episode after far too long talking. Hopefully, you stayed with us this whole time. But I'm Andrew.
I'm Patrick.
I'm Luke.
And I'm a pirate angel.
Peace out.
So slow I'm invisible.
Hold on to your butts.
Okay.
That's it.
Good. All right.
Go get him, Spider.
We can start. There we
Thank
go.
you. There we go.